Hello friends. Today I will tell you the story of the crazy leader who terrified the world, born the fourth of 6 children to Austrian customs officer Adolf Hitler, who had been married twice before, and the former Clara Polzel. Adolf Hitler grew up in a small Austrian town in the late 19th century. He was a slow learner and did poorly in school. He was frequently beaten by his authoritarian father. Things got worse when Adolf's older brother, Alois Jr., ran away from home. His mild-mannered mother occasionally tried to shield him but was ineffectual. Adolf's attempt to run away at 11 was unsuccessful. At the age of 14, he was freed when his hated father died, an event that he did not mourn. Hitler left high school at the age of 16 and moved to Vienna, where he tried to pursue his dream of being an artist but was twice turned down by the Vienna Art Academy. Even though he was really Austrian at the time, Hitler had by this point developed into an ardent German patriot. When World War I started, he crossed the border into Germany and enlisted in a Bavarian unit of the German army. While serving as a message runner, he also participated in the battle, after being temporarily rendered blind by a gas attack in Flanders in 1918. He was elevated from private to corporal and awarded the Iron Cross second class. Hitler remained in the army after the war in 1918 and was assigned to the intelligence section. He was tasked with spying on a number of extreme political organizations that the German government deemed to be a threat. German Workers' Party was one of these groups. Dietrich Eckart, the party's founder and a morphine addict who promoted mysticism and anti-Semitism, attracted Hitler. With the aid of his connections to military intelligence, Hitler quickly joined the party. In 1919, he was appointed party spokesperson. A year later, he gave the organization the new name National Socialist German Workers' Party NSDAP Nazi and proclaimed himself its Führer leader. The swastika symbol was first used in 1920 by Hitler's intelligence handler, a colonel from Munich by the name of Karl Haushofer. The paramilitary stormtroopers Sturmabteilung, or SA, established by Haushofer in 1921 and made up of German World War I veterans and covert military intelligence operatives. They assisted Hitler in planning the notorious Beer Hall Putsch, a failed coup attempt against the Bavarian government in Munich in 1923. The police had surrounded Munich City Hall when the rebels marched there. Hitler's troops fired at the police, but they missed. The police returned fire, but they missed as well, killing several of Hitler's fellow Nazis. Hitler was detained, found guilty of treason, and imprisoned. He received guidance from his advisors while incarcerated, and Rudolf Hess, his deputy, recorded the book Mein Kampf, which is German for My Struggle. He was only imprisoned for a few months before being let out. The Nazi Party had gained the support of a sizable group of powerful, conservative German manufacturers by 1925, who invested substantial sums of money in the group, putting it in a much better organizational and financial position. The Schutzstaffel, often known as the SS, served as Hitler's bodyguards. Through their network of the army and World War I veterans, the Nazis started to receive a lot of support in Germany, and Hitler stood for president in 1931. Hitler's next bid to become Chancellor of Germany was rejected by the current Chancellor Paul von Hindenburg. Hitler became Chancellor in January 1933 thanks to backroom talks with prominent conservative businesspeople and right-wing politicians. 1 month later, The Reichstag was burned in a mysterious fire that the Nazis initially claimed had been perpetrated by terrorists, but which was subsequently shown to have been started by the Nazis themselves, the building housing the German parliament. Hitler regime started issuing a number of emergency decrees that increased the power of the Chancellor's office. Hitler successfully lobbied the German parliament to approve the Enabling Act in March 1933, making the Chancellor the country's dictator and giving him greater authority than the president. 2 months later, Hitler started cleaning house, abolishing unions, and ordering widespread detentions of members of opposing political factions. The Nazi Party was the only one permitted in Germany at the end of 1933. A gangster and street brawler called Ernst Röhm, one of Hitler's closest associates, spearheaded the purging of the now radical SA in June 1934 when the dictator turned on himself and regarded the group as a potential danger to his authority. Hitler had Röhm killed. Therefore, his association with him was meaningless. Hitler amalgamated the presidency and chancellorship soon after President Hindenburg passed away. On Hitler's approval, the anti-Jewish Nuremberg legislation were enacted in 1935. He broke the terms of the Treaty of Versailles from World War I by sending soldiers into the Rhineland a year later. When he had complete authority over Germany, in 1938, Hitler coerced Austria into joining Germany and, under the guise of saving the German people from the Czechs, annexed the Sudetenland, a territory of Czechoslovakia close to the German border with a significant ethnic German population. Hitler occupied the rest of Czechoslovakia in March 1939. Hitler and Joseph Stalin signed a non-aggression pact on August 23, 1939. Hitler and Stalin attacked Poland in September 1939. Germany was at war with France, the British Empire, and the British Commonwealth. In 1940, Germany invaded France and took control of Denmark, Norway, and the Low Countries. Following the fall of Paris and the capitulation of France, Hitler thought of attacking the UK. The invasion was abandoned, nevertheless, as Britain's Battle of Britain off the German Air Force. In May 1940, the British started bombing German towns. 4 months later, Hitler ordered the Blitz in retaliation. German forces helped Italy, a German ally under dictator Benito Mussolini, annex Yugoslavia and Greece in 1941. A plan for the mass murder of Jews had already started in Germany and the other conquered nations. German troops attacked the Soviet Union on June 22, 1941. There were additional forces from German allies, including Romania, Italy, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Croatia, Spain, and Finland, in addition to the more than 4 million German soldiers. Hitler employed international armies to protect Germans so they could later colonize Russian territory. Hitler used the resources of all of Europe, which was under Nazi authority, to support the invasion of Russia, adhering to the meticulously planned Nazi strategy known as Barbarossa. Army Group North besieged Leningrad for 900 days. Army Group Center reached Moscow. And Army Group South invaded Russia and seized the Ukraine, the Caucasus, and Stalingrad. However, after a string of early victories, the German armies were halted in Moscow, Leningrad, and Stalingrad. Leningrad, a metropolis of 4 million people, nearly starved to death during the 900-day Nazi siege. Marshal Georgy Zhukov successfully defeated the German forces and freed the city in January 1944, ending the siege after a cost of around 2 million deaths. The Germans suffered defeat in a number of significant engagements that took place in 1943 at Kursk, which became the biggest tank fight in history, Kharkov and Stalingrad. One of the biggest battles in human history took place at Stalingrad. German forces lost 360,000 soldiers at Stalingrad alone, in addition to casualties incurred by Italian, Hungarian, Romanian, Czech, and other forces, but the Russians lost approximately 1 million soldiers. Germany was withdrawing on both fronts by 1944, the same year that the Western Allies invaded occupied Europe, and its forces in Africa had been thoroughly destroyed, resulting in the deaths and/or surrender of several 100,000 soldiers. 60 million persons are reported to have died during the 6-year conflict. 27 million of them were Russians, Ukrainians, Jews, and other individuals living in Soviet territory. More than 11 million troops and civilians died in Germany. Over 3 million people perished in Poland and Yugoslavia. Over 1 million each was lost by Italy and France. The majority of the countries in Central and Eastern Europe experienced severe, and in some cases complete, economic collapse. By the end of 1944, Hitler's capacity to serve as the Nazi regime's symbolic leader had long since vanished. Many of Hitler's closest advisors and managers had already left the country, had been arrested and/or killed by the SS for crimes both real and imagined, including numerous assassination attempts on Hitler, or had otherwise dispersed from his inner circle. Medical staff administered medications to Hitler for a long time. Hitler was almost assassinated in 1944 by a group of German army officers and citizens, but he lived to see another day. Hitler was a weak, frightened man who had almost completely lost touch with reality by the start of 1945. In April of that year, the Russians arrived in Berlin and launched a brutal attack on the city. Hitler committed himself as his troops drew near the bunker where he and the remainder of his cabinet were hiding out. He had married his longtime lover Eva Braun just the day before. Hitler's body was transported to Moscow, where it was later displayed to diplomats and commanders of Allied armies. At the Potsdam Conference following the victory, Iosif Stalin displayed Hitler's personal things to Winston Churchill and Harry S. Truman. Hitler's personal firearm was given to the West Point Military Academy Museum in New York. His personal effects are currently included in the National History Museum's permanent collection in Moscow, Russia.